to the cause of humanitarian tragedies and to reach those in need of help as quickly as possible while maintaining impartiality. We demanded freedom to carry out our purely humanitarian criteria, as well making human rights violation known. I'd be ready to answer to your question on the birth of this Nobel Peace Prize organization in your country. As I devoted my life to humanitarian intervention, humanitarian need, I spent a big part of my life in Africa. And I know about the needs, the epidemic, the pandemic, about HIV/AIDS, about last time, Ebola virus. But I want to talk about such a subject, huge, immense subject, Africa, Nigeria, humanitarianism. I want to talk about Africa not because of Africa's suffering, but because of African progress and African future. Africa is truly experiencing a rising which is transforming the continent and individual states. I know really about the poverty, and poverty is cause us trouble and tragedy, but indeed, Africa is becoming more central to the world in ways that transcend humanitarian interest. Therefore, it is outdated and counterproductive to assume that Africa is simply the object of humanitarian concern or a charity cause. In the past, Africa has been thought of primarily as an object of humanitarian concern. Thus, public attention was focused first of all on poverty, another time conflict and major diseases. However, Africa has other reasons and goals now, beyond these humanitarian issues. The continent is becoming more strategically important because of its growing role in supplying the world with oil, with gas, and other minerals. But furthermore, Africa is currently the scene of major competition for access to its natural resources. Some data on Africa rising that you know perfectly. 10% of the world reserve in oil. 25% of USA needs for energy be supplied by the Gulf of Guinea. 40% of the gold in South Africa alone. Democratic Republic of Congo hold 90% of coltan. No mobile phone run, and all your 1 or 2 or 3 mobile phone on your pocket. No mobile phone is run without coltan. Zimbabwe is the 5th producer of asbestos and chrome, etc., etc., etc. And don't forget the big African diaspora and its contribution to Africa development has reached and surpassed 1.3 trillion of aid given to Africa annually. Some data on economic advancement of Africa as a hot cake. By 2015, China-Africa bilateral trade will reach $300 billion doubling the current volume. Mr. Ambassador. India, among the BRIC, will also double its trade with Africa by 39 billion to 75. European Union, since 2007, as Africa and European Union joint strategy, it addressed cooperation for trade to space technology. The growth rates, you know pretty well, are much more important than our European growth rates. Africa achieved a robust 5.0% growth rate in 2012. But also, I have to say, and this is the only data in terms of poverty, the global hunger index is still very, very important and sadly improving. The number of HIV infection has dropped by more than 20%, down to 1.9 million people newly infected in 2010, from an estimated 2.6 billion at the peak of the epidemic. Even here, you're getting better. And the fight against malaria is making some progress with this organization you are all aware about, Rollback Malaria. I told you about, in giving you some big data of success in Africa, I don't want to avoid all the necessities on which I devoted all my life and also part of a lot of NGOs did. The challenges before coming to Nigeria, peace and stability are still not only the challenges as a continent, but a challenge as all individual states. High population growth coupled with high youth unemployment. Only 17% of working youths have full-time wage employment in the low-income countries. Improving in all socio-economic indicators is the challenge, so that all Africans can live in a decent living standards of life, having decent houses, access health services, education, and life in decent environment. And it is clear that health problem, not only health, but social welfare problem are still at the level of the continent in question. But it's clear, therefore, that considerable efforts should be made in order to avoid this rising to be nipped in the bud before its flowers full blooms. I want to talk about some African values very roughly, because I know that being popular is being short. And I've been told also by an important person. You have values here in Africa, and we are jealous about in the rest of the world. You feel a sense of human being, of humanity and empathy, a sense of generosity which springs naturally from the arts, as that is the way you call each other brother. Brother. These values are not philosophical thought and imagining of great thinkers. They are believed to be the common riches of all African